All right, so we're here today to do our tournament report for Top Deck Games event on 5/18/19. It was this past Saturday. I'm sitting here with Scott and Mark. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing pretty good.
All right, so I didn't play in the event, so I'm gonna have you guys tell me about it. How was it?
It was good. It was a little smaller than some of the other recent events we've had, but I think the caliber of player that was there at an average level, I think, was much higher because I think a lot of the high standing players that have been playing recently all showed up, and then some of the newer players that played were veterans from other card games that seemed to really have a good grasp of the game like right away, even though I had never met them before. So I just think, and the decks that people played, I think, were more meta. So I just think the tournament caliber was pretty high, no matter what the attendance was.
Yeah, just to cut in before I let Mark speak, I think the decks were a big deal. I think everyone played a pretty real deck at the event, and they all had merit for winning, actually. Once we get into the breakdown, people will see that a little bit better. What about you, Mark? How'd you feel about the event?
I thought it was a pretty good event. We had quite the infestation of bugs, so that kind of hampered a few people, and some people decided to choose to play a deck that was good against bugs, and those people did well, and only one bug player did well enough to make the top four. But I thought it was a pretty good event.
Yeah, so we had 13 players total, and if I can recall, it was five bug players.
Yeah, so for I can give you the whole breakdown.
Yep, yep.
We we had five bug players. All of them were on Ransack. No one played Chop Shop, plus the additional, Scrapnel, Barrage, Kickback. We had two Metroplex players, one Sentinels player. We had an Aerial Bots player, Dinobots. We had Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend and the new Bumblebee. And we had two different versions of the blue three wide Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend. The main difference in the lineup was one was Sunstreaker and the other one was Hot Rod. So the one with Sunstreaker was a specialist focused one, and the one with Hot Rod was range focused.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just piggyback off of that, and we will take a look at the top four decks. And the three wide special deck played by Adam Bixler ended up making top two, and he lost in the finals. Um, this deck is it's definitely a little different than the older three wide because of the specialist cards. Has the three field communicators and the two multi mission gears. I believe you guys both played against it. What do you guys think about this list?
So I played against them in the finals. I don't think the specialist cards made any difference at all in our matchup. I don't think that. I think Aerial Bots is heavily favored against three wide to begin with, and you can see that in the match when that's posted up on YouTube. But I, I specifically don't think that Field Communicator gives you extra cards, but I don't think you even need them necessarily in certain matchups. I don't think it's like a race to get random stuff off the top. I think it probably can help more in in certain matchups, like if you flip a free action and you're able to play a second action, like as a pseudo brainstorm effect. I can see where that might come into play for some of like for the Sunstreak or Flame War attacks. I just don't know necessarily that's going to happen in your favor well enough to make a difference. And I think multi mission gear just puts too much pressure on your hand unless you're playing a plethora of card draw. And I don't have access to his list in front of me. You guys can tell me like if he played like a bunch of pep talks and stuff like that. I can
He
see it,
had
but
two pep talks, one inspiring leadership.
yeah, I just don't know that there's enough card draw on the deck to support playing that. Like, I don't know though. Like, it didn't matter. Again, against Aerobots, it's real bad because I'm doing you're doing most of your damage through Pierce or through direct damage as it is. So extra armor didn't really matter much, but it might have helped him in other matchups. Obviously, he made the final, so the extra armor, kind of like the bashing shield type armor, where you're just like randomly it helps you against certain matchups. So maybe it helped him in certain situations I just didn't see through the day.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of video And I don't think I saw him once on camera play in a multi-mission gear and play in action. So like for me, it's already out.
Well, then you didn't see him play against me. That's
Well,
good.
all right.
It was in multi-mission gear on his Sunstreaker, and I was able to attack and deal 9 damage. If he didn't have the extra point of armor, the Sunstreaker would have died. And that Sunstreaker was alive for 3 attacks. So I can't remember if he played in action. I think he did, but I don't think it mattered. I don't think it mattered what it was. But it just being an armor for +1 armor mattered against me. But other than that, I wasn't impressed with it. And the field communicators, sometimes they flip burn and sometimes they flip handheld blaster. So if that's a card you're going to play, you pretty much have to be rolling the dice and hope you're hot all day.
Yeah, I think just for me in general, I don't think Field Communicator offers enough to replace Security Console. I think Security Console is huge in this deck, and to not have it just seems wrong to me. But like you guys said, he made the finals with it, and it's clearly a list worth exploring. I'm gonna move on to the next member. We'll just go to Scott real quick. Let's take a look at Scott, your updated aerial bots list. The big difference I've seen is we've cut the work overtime and we've cut the espionage, right?
Yeah, and I played one vaporize, one smell.
Yeah, true. So we got a smelled out of it. You went to a third enigma.
Yes.
So let's talk about why we went to a third enigma.
That's purely for the Sentinels matchup. And also, like, people just randomly playing espionage to get rid of enigmas, which I think was more popular in the beginning of the format. Just as a counter to combiner decks. So it's basically just a concession to that, to always want to try to have 2 in your hand on the turn that you want to combine. And that actually, a corollary to that was why I ran Pep Talk as well, which I'm on record saying I'm not a huge fan of the card, but what's happened in playing specifically this deck is you just don't always have an action you actually want to play, so you're kind of just stuck not wanting to put pressure on your hand to just kind of not do a lot for the turn by playing an action. So the safest actions you can play are just going to be your card drawing ones. So like just going up in card advantage through using Pep Talk on a turn you really feel like doing anything else doesn't really hurt you. And it can act as like a pseudo treasure hunt type effect where you're using your action to try to set up your upgrade, and because like you always want to be playing like as many armed hovercrafts as you can in a game and things like that. I just think it sets you up. Right now, it's just the best card draw you can play, in my opinion. Like
in blue.
You can make an argument to try like one intelligence mission might be something to try, because it just felt like every time I played it, I was like, okay, so now I have one more card in my hand, like, and it wasn't the biggest deal in the world. But again, it was mostly just there for turns that like I just didn't want to play an action anyway, so I might as well just go up in cards in my hand.
Anything to add to that, Mark?
What's that?
I was gonna say, anything you wanted to add to that you thought was different?
No, and I think that the Pep Talk is also a concession to Sentinels as well. It's just a way to help you get back up after. It's not a card they're ever going to take with Espionage and Mirage, so it's just a card to help you dig another card deeper, to find your Enigma, to find your burn spell, whatever you're looking for. There was also something I was curious about. Why only one Energon X, Scott?
Do you want me to talk for 20 minutes? Or just
no, that's a topic for another time.
No, the only reason it's one Energon X is because I don't find because without other blue decks heavily in the environment, I just don't find myself with the ability to put it on the aerial bots themselves before combining. So I just didn't want to have more than one of the cards that I couldn't see myself ever having the ability to ever play more than one of them in a match.
Yeah, and it was probably a good call for this weekend. There was only 3 total blue decks, you and the 2 3-wide decks. So doesn't really look like it hurt you.
No, I think I only got it in play once, obviously. Yeah, I think that's about it. Most of the time I combined, I just had a Noble's Blaster on. And like 9 times out of 10, like Superior had a Noble's Blaster or suited them up with a Noble's Blaster. So.
Okay, we'll leave the rest for another time.
Well, I mean, I could talk about some other parts. The smell was decent, not amazing.
Okay. It's fine.
Did you like it more than the second Vaporize?
Yeah, because Air Raid was a Vaporized anyway. So to be honest with you, like I didn't feel like I needed, like if I had Vaporize at all times I needed it, it would be Vaporize would be better. But the ability to get the smelt at times when I needed it off the combat flip just made it more relevant. Like it was obviously relevant in like the Metroplex match, for example. The only match that really kind of hurt me was against other specialists or random bashing shields that were out there and stuff like that. But you can usually just arrange it where over the course of 2 turns between like the air raid attack and then smelt, you were getting what you originally would want to vaporize anyway. So just the ability to get out of the combat pile made so it was decent. But it was probably the last card. It was the last card I added. Once we decided to play 3 Pep Talk, it was the last card I added, and it was fine. I mean, if I thought there was something that was better, I would add it, but it was fine for what it did.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback off the Pep Talk, I think the big thing is just having the extra cards in your hand at all times in general, so you can always get back a green when you need it. Because if like you go through every turn where you want to play an action, you want to play an upgrade, and you eventually just run out of cards, and the moment you run out of cards, you can no longer get your greens back. So the Pep Talks just help you over the course of the game to have extra cards when you need them.
Yeah, it's true. There aren't enough. I mean, the way I'm looking at decks now is like I like to have enough greens in my deck to make up for the cards I'm playing that are only good in specific matchups, or to at least get rid of the cards that are bad in specific matchups. So for me, like I want to play 3 marksmanship. They're obviously bad against a sentinel matchup, but I have enough greens to pitch them to now that are green blue or straight green for the Enigma to safely get them out of my hand for value. So that's why I continue to play like some of the more niche cards like that as a full play setup.
Yeah. I mean, it worked out. You went undefeated. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, let's take a look at Kyle's deck. Now, from the moment that I showed up to the event early and I left early, I had collected Kyle's deck, looked at the table, and said, "You're going to do good today," because I thought Metroplex was actually a pretty good call in the day. And he was undefeated before top 4 also. He split with you, or he drew with you in the 4th round. His deck is pretty different. I know Mark has the other Metroplex in front of him, but Mark had already pointed out that this deck only has 5 flip effects. He only has 3 rollouts and 2 escape routes, so he's not playing the full suite of them. And he doesn't. I didn't go and research this, but do most of the other Metroplexes play Peace Through Tyranny?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So he's not playing Peace Through Tyranny.
Huh. Correct.
Yeah, he's playing Handheld Blaster and Security Checkpoint, and Improvised Shield, but he's not playing Peace Through Tyranny, which I thought jumped out to me right away. I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird.
He's confidence in that slot.
Yeah, so he gave up on the double orange just to play confidence to find, I'm assuming just to find more supercharges and height advantages. Yeah. So
did he play 3 backup beams and a flamethrower, or just backup beams?
He did not play flamethrower. He only played 2 backup beams.
And he had 3 superchargers, I bet.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he was able to just kind of straight raw dog the ability against me a couple times.
Yeah,
the games we played.
He doesn't. Yeah, yeah. As you guys will see on camera throughout the games he played, he really got fortunate with some of these flips, and it's awesome to see it happen. But it was just for me the one thing that popped out was just not having the piece through tyranny. So I was like, man, I feel like it's a card you need, but he got away with it for sure. Do all of them play combat training?
It's an option for play. It's an option for one of the whites. I mean, like it's on the list of whites that actually can do something.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not bad. I think the way he played it was basically just Metroplex as my win, like as everything, like as my one guy I'm going to attack with. And if I hit the ability, I'm just so far ahead of a lot of these other decks that actually need to flip and actually need to draw cards and actually need to play upgrades. That like when I get the little bots, I'm going to get the little bots. But I mean, I think he played it really well. Like
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
That was his list. I wouldn't have even thought about it because like I mean I know against me with playing aerial bots it was rough like because I just was down so many turns compared to him. Like every time he got that flip, it was like, all right, it's gonna take me like 10. There were turns I looked down. I'm like, how are so few of my guys flip? Like this is just like.
Yeah, because like every turn he just does it, you know.
Yeah.
It didn't take much. It felt like the way he designed this, you know, a backup beam was good enough some turns. Like he didn't need to go like backup beam supercharge. He didn't need to play any other any other upgrades that even gave him bold. Like he was just able to get there with just the backup beam and whatever.
Well,
and
each bot also gets him bold too.
Yeah, well the big thing also is that if he didn't have a rollout or escape route, most times he just wasn't even flipping to get a guy. Like he was just like, whatever, I'm just going to attack you again.
Yeah.
So like he wasn't concerned with putting those guys into play unless he had a way to reflip because every time he just wanted to attack with Metroplex.
Right, and I think that was really smart too because not only, yes, he's going to deal less damage, but that attack it doesn't really give him a failure rate. So if Metroplex on his bot side hits and doesn't proc, he is just going to sit there and take a huge pounding. At least on the other side, he has an additional defense. So you have to figure that's going to be, instead of just one defense, you know, against three attackers, he has two defense against three attackers. So he just gets to soak more damage just by making that single attack until his hand is set up for him to go in and make a whole tap down.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was, he did really well. I mean, he had a tough match in top four. He just, you know, I think he was a point away from winning the game. So it could have been him and Scott in the finals. He just got maybe his luck on the day finally kind of ran out a bit. But let's take a look at the one bug deck that got through. So this list it looks pretty similar to what Palmer ran a couple weeks ago. But there's no Crystal, and Ransack replaced Chop Chop.
Right, and then so with that replacement,
we got Static Laser Ironhide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think about the change to Ransack from Chop Chop? Why did you think that was a big thing for the day, Mark?
Well, that's what I've been advocating ever since last month's top deck. If you're orange, if the meta's infested with orange decks, Ransack is the way to go. You just basically get to dangle him out there, force them to kill him, and if they don't, you get to punish them off the wheel. And I only like Chop Chop if your meta is very blue heavy. That way, you can attack with another character and be able to reuse that upgrade, that weapon, because you can transfer it over. When you play against other orange decks, if you put an upgrade on a character and attack, chances are that guy's dying on the way back. So Chop Chop isn't going to be able to move a weapon over, cycle stuff. You don't have time for that. Whereas Ransack doesn't actually care about time. He just cares about dealing damage.
Yeah, pretty much. Scott, you played against this guy in top four. How was the matchup?
Worse than I expected it to be because I think I make mistakes in the game I lose.
Okay.
And it came out of like a flip at the end. But I mean, I still think Aeronaut's is favored against it. But I mean, he played it well. There's just against a 5-wide combiner blue deck like Aerobots, I think the number of character advantage that deck usually has against other decks just kind of fizzles out. Like if they have to use more than one attack to kill these little aerial bots,
they're very behind.
Yeah. Yeah. The one question I have is, I guess for Mark, because he'll know better than me. If you're already favored against these other orange decks to begin with playing Chop Shop, is it just not right to just play him more often in these matchups where you're not favored against other blue decks?
I don't think so. I don't actually think that Chop Chop adds enough against the blue. I'm saying that's the only matchup where he's better than Ransack, and the amount that he's better is only marginal.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Depending on what weapon you move, it's not even that big of a deal. Like if it's a mining pick, you don't get the plan, so it's just +1 attack. The only ones that you actually want to move are Erratic Lightning and Static Laser. So if you want to do that and you expect a heavy blue meta, maybe you just want to alter the number of mining picks you're playing, go up to the full set of static lasers, because also when you attack with Chop Chop, and if you move a static laser over, you've already attacked, so you don't take that 2 damage. So it's just a free 3 damage buff. And he starts with 4 more attack. He has an additional attack as opposed to Ransack.
Okay.
That's a fun fact about the laser moving without taking damage. That's not bad. That's interesting. Just so we can go back. So it was 13 players total. There were 5 bug decks. Do you think that was just a direct response to the last one having Sentinels be so favored and so dominant in the top 8 and the top 4?
Yeah. Yeah, no question about that. It's one of Sentinel's worst matchups. And I mean, it's just, the bugs are just so favored in that matchup. The amount of times that you're going to have to play and get lucky as the Sentinel player, it's pretty bad. I'm not saying it's unwinnable, but it's definitely in bugs' favor. The more bugs that you face throughout the day, the lower your chances are of being able to, eke out 2 matches, especially if they win the roll and choose to play first. That means that if you win one, you're going to win a game, and they get to be on the play at least twice.
Yeah. And we only had 1 Sentinels player, and he lost twice to bugs, right?
I believe those were his only losses.
Well, there you go. Sentinels didn't show up, and they lost to bugs. It happens. Is there anything like cool from the event, Mark? You have the decks in front of you. Anything you really wanted to shout out?
I didn't really see anything else. We did have an interesting one, the Optimus Prime, Battlefield Legend, and Bumblebee Trusted Lieutenant. I know you did a deck tech on it a while ago, the Toy Story deck. And I believe Rich from Team RTFC, that's what he was playing. It's just one of those things that it's a super inconsistent deck. When it goes off, it's like the 4th of July, and when it doesn't go off, it's like you're lighting snakes. So it's very polarizing in its options and what happens. That's kind of what we found. It's a fun deck to play. We just can't find a way to make it consistent to always go off.
Yeah, and I believe his version was way more orange than mine.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Scott, what about you? Did you play anything fun?
Let's see. I played Insecticons. I played all the decks that we talked about.
Okay.
I mean, I played against both 3-wide primes, which is not a hard matchup for.
Oh, you played against Vince and Bixler? I didn't know you played against Vince.
In round 3, I want to say I played against them.
Yeah, and then you played against Insecticons in round 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I played against Insecticons in the top 4, and then 3-wide in the finals. So.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, aerial bots ended up being a really good call because people went to bugs, and then other people went to 3-wide, and you kind of just are favored in both those matches.
Yeah, I mean the meta is not a rock paper scissors.
No.
way more complicated than that. And honestly, I played Aerobots because I think I'm better with blue decks than I am with orange decks the last few times I've been playing, and like I'm trying to find a deck that I want to get comfortable with, and like I feel much more comfortable fixing like 2 or 3 cards every tournament and still playing the same exact deck than I do showing up with like a whole entire different 40 card deck and different character lineup. I just feel like this is like playing the same thing. This is now the second time I played Aerobots at one of these events in this meta.
And they were both the times that you made top 4, and this time you won. So yeah.
And
you won the last time too.
Probably.
Yeah,
so I just feel more comfortable with that deck, and I just think that's important as there's only like a month left, like a little more than a month left.
There's about 5-6 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's just time where to lock in on something and try to improve it than it is to keep trying to think there's some kind of magic bullet out there for a complicated metagame.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely go into that probably deeper out of the side of the tournament report, but
yep.
I think the biggest thing is these events they're being held monthly, and our next one coming up is June 22nd at Top Deck. We wanted to definitely thank them for letting us give you guys all the exclusive coverage from it. And I'm just, I'm looking forward to keep doing it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully we get a bigger turnout for next time, obviously.
Agreed.
But yeah, so pretty, like Scott said at the beginning, it was a pretty competitive tournament, even though it was small. The meta decks had shown up, and they kind of all played out kind of how we thought they would. Good day for Scott going undefeated. A good day for Metroplex. He was undefeated and lost in top 4. We finally got a 3-wide prime to make a top 4. So it was just a good day in general for the meta. All right, but thank you guys for sitting down with me, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yep, thanks, man.
All right, have a good one.